And I am also hitting the record button.
Joanne, did you say no CSEA today?
No CSEA, correct.
Okay.
Mr. Fuentes, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Joanne, did you say no CSEA today?
No CSEA, correct.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Miranda.
Good afternoon. Hey, Rick, Shane. Did you get my text, Joanne, about Mr. Flores?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Haro.
Hello, Dr. Miranda.
And I think we're still missing Miss Sandoval.
No, Miss Sandoval's here.
Okay.
Dr. Miranda, I'm here.
Hello, Miss Sandoval. Okay. So I think all the boards here except for Mr. Flores, who is going to be a little bit late.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Then we got all cabinet, so. I think we got everybody.
Okay, just wait till 5:30 and we'll start.
You got it.
Okay, it is 5:30 and I would like to bring the June 11th Colton Joint Unified School District Board meeting to order. Tonight, the Colton Joint Unified School District will observe a moment of silence in honor of Mr. George Floyd. Our deepest condolences go to his family. We stand strong and proudly with our African American students, families, employees, and our community. I would like to now request a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you for your participation. We will move on to item 1.2, the renewal of the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Miranda, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Will you please stand and put your right hand over your heart? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to its republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated.
And let the record show that all board members are present except for, I believe, Mr. Flores, who will be a bit late.
That's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Excuse me. Action item 1.3, the adoption of the June 11th agenda. There are no amendments to this agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Thorning.
Second is Fuentes.
Thank you. Board Member Thoring Ojeda, and a second by Board Member Fuentes to adopt the agenda as recommended. Roll call vote, please, Joanne.
Mr. Ibarra,
Yes.
Mrs. Haro,
Yes.
Ms. Doreen Ojeda,
Yes.
Mrs. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Fuentes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
On a motion by Board Member Thoring Ojeda and a second by Board Member Fuentes, the board adopted the agenda on a 6-0 vote, with Board Member Flores being absent. 2.0 are special presentations. The Cal RTA Scholarship Presentation. Dr. Miranda.
Thank you, Board President Haro and board members, cabinet and members of the audience out there. It is my honor to do this special presentation on behalf of the Cal RTA, the California Retired Teachers Association. California Retired Teachers Association is a statewide organization of retired teachers who are dedicated to supporting their fellow educators. So annually, they recognize teachers through scholarship opportunities. This year, 9 Colton teachers, yay, have received scholarships. One of the largest groups ever recognized from Colton. And I'm going to announce the winners. The award winners are, so we have Molly Green from Grand Terrace High School.
Yay.
Yay. Cynthia Melendez from Grand Terrace High School. Victoria Morales from Grand Terrace High School. Sheila Comfort from Grand Terrace High School. Carol Meyer, Bloomington High School. Michelle R. Estrada Quezada, Terrace Hills Middle School. Thomas Doe, Joe Baca Middle School. Summer Selby, Crestmore Elementary. And then the last, Cherise Reiser from Terrace and Hills Middle School. Congratulations to all our winners. And thank you to the, again, the California Retired Teachers Association for the scholarships and everything you do for putting this together. I'm sure the teachers really appreciate the awards.
Thank you, Dr. Miranda, and thank you to Cal RTA for the scholarships they presented to our teachers, and congratulations to all our teacher recipients. Moving on to 3.0, our public hearing. Public hearing concerning the proposed budget for fiscal year 2020-21 and fund balances above the minimum required reserve for economic uncertainties, Education Code 42127A 2B, and 42127.01. Opening the public hearing. Joanne, do we have any public comments regarding this?
There's no public comment concerning this.
Okay, thank you. Closing the public hearing. Moving on to 4.0, our public comment. Joanne, if we have public comments, if you would please go ahead and let us know the name of the person, where they're from, and go ahead and start with reading our public comment, please.
Sure. The first public comment has been submitted by Camille Butts, Grand Terrace High School teacher, and I will set my timer. Hello, school board and CJUSD stakeholders. My name is Camille Butts, and I am an African-American teacher at Grand Terrace High School looking to have one question answered. First, I want to thank you for trusting the expertise of the school reopening task force committees and deferring to their combined expertise as we plan for the 2020-2021 school year. By trusting these task force committees and scientific expertise, we can protect all CJUSD stakeholders and still provide appropriate education for the students we serve. In response to the community letter sent out June 1st, I was left with one question. Does CJUSD believe that Black Lives Matter? I ask this because you finished the letter with the equivalent of an All Lives Matter statement. This statement, for many, negates the intentions of the community letter on equity. To state it another way, by shifting the focus to all, you have removed your understanding of the unique hurt being felt by the Black and African American community. A couple examples applied to real life are as follows. If your friend gets a cut on their arm, are you going to wait to give all your friends a Band-Aid first because all arms matter? No, you would help your friend who was bleeding because they are in pain and in need. Furthermore, if your neighbor's house is on fire, are you going to make the fire department go to every other house on the block first because all houses matter? I hope you see what I am saying in these examples. Our Black and African American stakeholders are hurting because despite increasingly prevalent video evidence showing the validity of our assertions, systematic racism and injustice continue to harm our community with little action from those in positions of power to alleviate our pain. When you say equity, you acknowledge that specific supports are needed to help different groups attain equal opportunities. Currently, one support that is needed is for you to demonstrate to the CJUSD community that you believe Black Lives Matter. Because if Black students' futures do not matter, our purpose is broken. So I ask again, does CJUSD believe that Black Lives Matter? Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing an answer to my question.
Thank you, Joanne. Next.
The next public comment submitted is from Special Ed Technicians, Pupil Personnel Services, Mercedes Diaz, Yvette Santana, Amber Aguilar, Annabelle Villavicencio, Claudia Ureno, Jeanette Reyes, Lori Sanchez, Lucinda Madrigal. And I will set my timer. Dear President, Haro, and Colton Joint Unified School District Board members, as special education technicians, we submitted a reclassification request for the 2018-2019 school year. The reclassification committee has recommended a no recommendation per board agenda June 11th, 2020, action item 6.59. While we respect the committee's decision, as district employees, we like to provide you with information regarding our justification for requesting this reclassification, given the fact that our duties have gradually increased. Whereas a result of the gradual increase of duties being performed by a unit member and where the duties will be extended on a continuing basis, the incumbent shall be entitled to have the position considered for an upgrade to a higher classification. Colton CAC Contract 7.3.1. As you are aware, the services provided by our special education department are individualized and can be quite complex as every student's case is unique. Maintaining 100% state compliance and holding IEPs is essential to our school district, as non-compliance may lead to sanctions. Our district includes 18 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, 5 high schools, 10 NPS, 12 state preschools, 2 Head Start sites, and 1 special ed preschool. Our special education staff consists of 8 special education technicians who are responsible for monitoring services for approximately 3,816 students in our district, and oversee 107 students who live in our district but receive services through San Bernardino County schools. Consequently, due to child find, this number doesn't take into account children who are continuously being referred for assessments from physicians, speech therapists, social workers, parents, Inland Regional Center, preschool services, and other agencies, nor does it take into account students that are transferring into our school district from other areas. Within our surrounding school districts and even within our own school district, our job is unlike any other clerical position. It is quite unique. No other clerical position has assigned student caseloads that require constant monitoring in vast areas. Special education technicians are a range 48 in the clerical classification. While our main task is to schedule IEPs, this is by far not the only task we perform. Within the last 4 years, due to changing state guidelines, increase in referrals for assessments, child advocates taking on cases regarding training, new data, correcting, and reporting, our duties have gradually increased as outlined. High-profile cases involving attorneys or child advocates. These cases are rising, may take precedence over other cases, demanding, require close attention to detail and time-consuming. New state guidelines. Added duties that arise from new state guidelines, correcting CalPAT errors in certification, enrolling students to obtain SSID numbers, required training for CalPATs. Leadership. Providing constant guidance and procedures to case carriers, school site staff, other support staff.
The 3 minutes is up. The board's wishes to continue. Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yes? Okay. Go ahead, Joanne.
Okay.
Yes.
Training, required training to correct CalPAT errors and certifications. Increased communication. As referrals increase, communication increases with IRC parents, other wide range of agencies. Reviewing data for accuracy. Reflects our funding and how our district is reflected and viewed on CDE dashboard. Child find referrals. IRC referrals have doubled, requiring the additional hiring of preschool teachers, classrooms. While these duties fall into our job description, there is no doubt that they have gradually increased over time. It has become evident over the last 4 years that not only have our duties gradually increased, they have been, and most assuredly will continue to be extended on a continuing basis. As Colton Joint Unified School District employees, our district is to be as efficient and effective as possible. We also, however, desire equitable compensation due to increased job duties and the specialized type of work we perform. Under normal circumstances, we would have liked to invite you to our office to observe, share, and discuss our jobs. However, given our present situation, we understand that's not possible. Nevertheless, from previous experience, we know that as board members, you frequently visited our office and became quite familiar and appreciative of our jobs. We are therefore respectfully requesting that you take this information into consideration prior to making a final decision on June 11th, 2020. We will be happy to provide further information or answer any questions you may have for us. Very respectfully, Mercedes Diaz, Yvette Santana, Amber Aguilar, Annabelle Villavicencio, Claudia Ureno, Jeanette Reyes, Lori Sanchez, Lucinda Madrigal, Special Education Technicians, Pupil Personnel Services.
Thank you, Joanne. And I believe you have a couple more.
Yes.
Okay.
Next public comment, Jessica Maestas, parent of Sycamore Hills Elementary. I'll start my timer. Dear school board members, hello, my name is Jessica Maestas. I am the mother of 3 children who attend Sycamore Hills Elementary School. My children's name are Annalise Maestas, kindergarten, Sophia Maestas, 2nd grade, and Josiah Maestas, 3rd grade. Since our oldest child's first day of preschool, I have been involved with his school and volunteered service to help the schools as a classroom aide, a field trip chaperone, an office aide, PTO member, PTO president, and active chair for school site council. I am writing to strongly discourage the district from implementing the guidance related to schools, specifically the wearing of masks by students, teachers, and administrators, forced 6 feet separation, and the not sharing of instructional materials, games, etc. Please watch this video and refer to the links and resources on this page, www.thehealthyamerican.org/schools. Here are the reasons why this school district should open normally this fall with no mask, nor forced distancing, no plexiglass dividers, etc. 1. These are guidelines only and not enforceable by law. There is no legal statute that enforces these guidelines. 2. There are no legal penalties for not following these guidelines. 2. Each district and school has the authority to implement the guidelines according to their own needs. 3. Cal OSHA guidelines state that cloth masks do not prevent against COVID-19. 4. The FDA states that cloth face covers do not prevent against the spread of illness. 5. The CDC has no reputable scientific or medical evidence that supports wearing masks to prevent illness. 6. The California Board of Health states that wearing masks could increase risk of infection. 7. The New England Journal of Medicine states that outside of a medical setting, the wearing a mask provides little, if any, protection against the transmission of disease. 8. There are countless documented physical, mental, and emotional harms associated with wearing masks. 9. There is no special liability associated with a person catching a communicable disease at a workplace. In fact, it is the opposite. It is much harder to prove because you, A, have to prove that a person knew he was infected, and B, that person had to willfully intend to infect another person. 10. Your workplace is more likely to be sued because of the health harms of wearing a mask by both the teachers and the student, including A, reduction in oxygen. Must have 19.5% oxygen in the atmosphere according to OSHA regulations. Masking can result in 18.5% or below, putting the wearer at immediate danger to life and health with irreversible adverse effects, according to OSHA regulations. B, students or teacher passing out due to carbon dioxide toxicity and possibly falling, hitting their head, and dying. 11, instructional impediments to learning. Face masks are threatening, menacing, divisive. They impede normal social interaction. Language is garbled. A barrier between student and teacher is created. 12, there is no sound scientific or medical evidence.
Go ahead, Joanne.
12, there is no sound scientific or medical evidence supporting social distancing or any other erroneous recommendations. These are not laws, nor are they enforceable by law, such as no sharing or instruction materials or games, etc. There is zero science between having students sit in desks 6 feet apart. It is the opposite. The division is harmful on a physical, psychological, emotional, and instructional level. 13, your school is at risk for being sued for discrimination on religious grounds because mask wearing may violate a person's individual religious beliefs. 14, if students are kept from going to school because of a mask wearing requirement, your school may lose funding based on attendance. 15, if a parent would like their child to wear a mask, that is a personal choice. There are no legal grounds for a parent to require that the entire school or student population be required to wear a mask. 16, requiring teachers, administrators, or students to wear masks is a violation of OSHA regulations regarding a safe and healthy workplace because of the documented health harms associated with wearing a mask outside of healthcare settings. More data and links are at www.thehealthyamerican.org, along with additional well-researched instructional videos. I look forward to hearing a favorable decision for returning to school as normal. Sincerely, Jessica Maestas.
Thank you. And I believe you have one more.
Yes.
Okay.
And this last public comment is from Lori Walton, resident of the city of Colton and teacher at Rutho Harris Middle School. I will start my timer. Good evening, all. I hope that you and yours are safe and well today. The health and wellness of our communities are in danger. I'll say that again. The health and wellness of our CJUSD communities are in danger. No matter our intentions, it is the impact of our actions and inaction that puts us all at risk. Anti-Black racism, white supremacy. To heal ourselves from them, we have to start by saying their names out loud. Proclamations, resolutions, and statements are a start, and they aren't enough. What are the policies, the practices, and the dispositions that allow anti-Black racism and white supremacy to live in the CJUSD? What do we need to alternatively breathe life into so that racial justice in the CJUSD is achieved? Responding to the COVID-19 and to racial injustice are not two different things. They are the same thing. When we know that Black and Brown people are disproportionately affected, when we know that Black and Brown people are most often in work that has been deemed to be essential, when we know that essential work does not pay a living wage, when we know that healthcare is a privilege and not a right, and when we know the education we provide is not fully and equitably funded, is not systematic, is not responsive, is not centered in justice and compassion. We know proclamations, resolutions, and statements are woefully inadequate. We must be vigilant in our work to elevate the humanity of our most vulnerable, both younger and older. Gandhi teaches us the measure of any society is found in the ways they treat their most vulnerable. Mandela implores us to accept that courage is a triumph over fear. Marsha Johnson reminds us that one person does not have rights unless we all have our rights. Reverend King writes to beware of the white moderate who prefers the absence of tension to the presence of justice, and that lukewarm acceptance is not more bewildering than outright rejection. And if we are a people who pray, may we pray for the blessings of the indigenous Serrano and Kauai, whose land we occupy. Let the ancestors flow through us in our discernment so that we do what is right and just, no matter how difficult that may be. Anti-Black racism, white supremacy. Please join in the chorus of voices who say their names so the healing can begin.
Thank you, Joanne. Those are are there any other public comments?
That's all. Thank you.
That is all. Okay. Thank you, Joanne. We are moving on to 5.0, our administrative presentations. 5.1, our local control and accountability plan update. COVID-19 operations written report. Dr. Peterson.
Good evening, Board President Haro, board members, Superintendent Miranda, and members of the community. Tonight's presentation will, as a result of COVID-19, review the changes to the state accountability measures, review changes to the LCAP, and discuss the COVID-19 LCAP operation report that is an action item on tonight's agenda for approval. Next slide, please. With regard to the state changes to the accountability measures, as you're aware, testing for CAST, which is our English and Math, CAST, our Science, and LPAC for our EL students were canceled for the spring. However, LPAC, initial testing for students who are entering the district this fall, must occur and will begin on July 6th through our Language Support Services Department. It is a federal requirement for the state to have the dashboard each year. So the state is currently seeking a waiver. We will know more in the fall if the dashboard is waived, and if there is no waiver, only suspension, graduation rate, chronic absenteeism, and a modified college and career indicator will be included for the 2020 dashboard. The 2021 dashboard, which will still need state approval, will show status based on the current status based on the 2021 test data for next year, and change based on last year's 2019 data. And so in our testing world, it will be as if 2020 never happened. With these cancellations, our CSI, which is our comprehensive support and improvement, and that's our whole school, and ATSI, additional targeted support and improvement, which is specific to subgroups at sites, they remain the same for next year. So there will not be an opportunity in January for those schools that were identified to be removed from this list. And they will keep that status until January 2022. The good news is that the district came out of differentiated assistance in January, and that will continue next year as well. And so we will not be held to the extra county provisions with regard to that. Next slide, please. As far as the LCAP changes, the state has delayed the 3-year LCAP. It was scheduled to begin July 1st. They've delayed it a year to basically be due on June 30th, 2021. In doing this, it separates the LCAP from the budget adoption this month. And as a result, they've put in 3 different compliance pieces that will happen throughout the year. The first is the operations report that's on the agenda tonight. This is due June 30th with the district budget, and that will be submitted to the county. The second is a 1-year LCAP, or the extension of the current LCAP with a due date of December 15th, along with the LCAP local indicators and budget overview for parents. We were told sometime in September, hopefully sooner, that we'll actually get the template for that 1 year, and it should be similar to what we do every year with our LCAPs. The third part is the actual 3-year LCAP. We're hoping a lot of what we did this year in preparation will transfer, and this will now be, instead of 2020 to 2023, it will now be for the school years 2021 to 2024. And that will be due again next June 30th. Next slide, please. This leads us to tonight's item, which is the LCAP operations report. And for that, we had to basically summarize and give the experience of what occurred over the last 3 months as we implemented distance learning across the district. And so the first question we had to identify as kind of a summary, what changes were made to address the school closure. And again, this is a summary of the pieces that we put in place to address not only distance learning, but nutrition services and how we supported students across the district. The second question was specific to the actions taken to meet the needs of our English learner, foster youth, and low-income students. And this is our unduplicated students that we received the additional funding for through the LCAP. The third question details the steps that we took to deliver high quality distance learning opportunities. And so it details from the planning stage through the implementation to the final at the end of the school year, the process that we put in place across the district. Question number 4 discusses nutrition services and the school meals that we provided, I believe, starting the 3rd day of spring break to the present, and how maintaining of social distance occurred during that time and during that practice. And then finally, the final one was for those districts who had childcare opportunities within it, what they did to arrange for supervisions of students during ordinary school hours. Through that, we discussed the fact that we continued operating preschools, our preschool program, as well as providing Chromebooks to preschool students. If you haven't seen preschool students and that happen on Chromebooks, it's definitely an experience to see the learning occur there. And we also provided the opportunity for Colton to continue to use the city of Colton to continue to use our facilities for their daycare program through the district. And so that's the information contained in the operations report. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone for their efforts during the last 3 months. Words can't express how appreciative I am of all the district staff, the site administrators, the teachers, parents, students, and the school board for the work that everyone put in during this time. While not perfect by any means, we can't fault the efforts that went into this process. I can't thank everyone enough who completed the surveys the past few weeks that we sent out, as this information will provide valuable feedback as we move forward and take a look at what is needed and be prepared for the upcoming school year. And at this point, thank you for the time to present tonight and may answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions of Ms. Peterson? It looks like you're good. Hearing no one.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Moving on to item 5.2, our 2020-21 budget presentation. Mr. Rick Jensen.
Good evening, President Haro, members of the board, Superintendent Miranda, and our virtual audience. I'd like to present the budget for next year tonight. Again, just like Dr. Peterson mentioned, maybe not perfect. I'm sure we would all like to have a better budget than the one we're about to present. But this is a situation we have handed to us, and we're not complaining about it. We are rising to the occasion. So let's go to the next slide. First, I would like to thank each of the members of the Fiscal Services Department, our new director, Maria Amanda Sarabia, Dina Valiukas, and Sylvia Nunez, and our consultant, Armidas, who all 4 of them working very diligently to put this together for us tonight. So let's move on to our highlights of how the estimated actuals look, because the estimated actuals are part of the budget package. So we see that since second interim, there's been an increase in property taxes. The STRS on behalf contribution entry has been included in the budget for this year. Savings from position vacancies have already been identified. The 2.5% salary increases for all of the bargaining units and employee groups have been included in this year's budget. We've updated the interest revenue projections for all of the funds, identified the construction budget carryover for next year, And then we've included what looks like the June state aid apportionment being deferred over to July 2020. And we just heard today, it looks like that apportionment will be paid on or around July 15th. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is our revenue graph. Rather than show you the numbers, I think we get lots of numbers. I'd rather show a picture of how things look. As you can see, the green section is the largest, and that would represent our local control funding formulas. 81% of our revenue budget, and this is unrestricted dollars. Inside this amount, about $54 million is for the LCAP and represents the supplemental and concentration dollars. And then in addition, we do have federal dollars, which would include some of the, well, I don't think the COVID or the CARES Act is in this budget. We'll see that in the 2021 budget. But under state revenue, we do see the SB 117 dollars placed there, and then other local dollars. Next slide. This graph represents the expenditures for this year, according to our estimated actuals. So the certificate classified and salaries benefits make up about 80% of the budget. Now, we are a people business, and it does take people to teach people, and that is our biggest numbers by far. Left in the 20% amount, it would be supplies, services, and capital outlay. Next slide, please. Okay, now the 2021 budget graphs. Next slide. In the revenues, again, the LCFF is the biggest piece, but you'll notice it drops from 81% to 76%, mainly because of the cuts that we will experience next year, to the tune of about $23 million. You see that our federal dollars have risen from 6% to 12%. That represents the CARES Act money for what's called the elementary, secondary relief funds and the ESSER funds, they're commonly called. We also have what we are estimating to be about $500 per student for the funds that are also coming from the federal government, but they haven't been identified yet as to how much that will be. And that is for the mitigation of learning loss. And then we have the other state categorical and local funds. In our expenditures, in the next slide, we see that still our salaries and benefits make up about 81% of the budget, followed by supply services, a little bit less in capital outlay than we had this year, and then other outgo. Next slide, please. So other changes since second interim that are reflected between this year and next year. So the budget is based on the May revision. It is not based on what proposals we've heard from the legislature. As you know, the legislature is betting that the federal government will present more money through the HEROES Act, but the governor is not. So his budget includes cuts in the May revise, while the legislature is proposing no cuts at this time. Their budget is due June 15th, and we'll see next week how that will play out. So in the budget, the COLA is funded at 2.31%, but then swiftly taken away with a 10% reduction. So the difference between 100% and this funding is 7.92%, because there are other pieces of the LCFF budget that are cut at a full 10% and don't receive the COLA. The LCF funding level is down about $24 million. As you can see, the difference between these two amounts from this year to next year. Supplemental and concentration grants down from $54 million this year to $47.5 million next year, all due to the cuts just mentioned. Our UPP rate for our unduplicated pupil population is 81.41%. We are slated to receive cuts if the governor's plan pans out of about 20% to our ACES grant and about 54% to the CTEIG grant and the K-12 Strong Workforce grant. So although there's one deferral this year to next year, the June apportionment, from next year to the following year, we're expected to have deferred the April, May, and June apportionments. Next slide, please. Our cash flow projection, by the way, does show that even with those 3 months being deferred to the next year, we should still be able to maintain a positive cash balance every month. We will continue to watch those funds as we go throughout the year. So other changes since second interim to next year's budget, the CARES Act federal stimulus dollars. So we already mentioned the $500 per student amount. As you recall, the May revise suggested $735 per student, but that would be for districts that are concentration funded districts, as we are. But because the legislature is probably going to win out with being able to fund all districts, that waters down from $735 to $500 per student, and that is recommended by the county to put into the budget. We did not put into the budget this money, $1,900 per student with disabilities. It's recommended at this time not to budget it because we don't know if these dollars will truly come in or not. So we're being conservative, but it may provide another $4 million if these funds show up. I talked about the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund of $6.2 million. That's a known amount, but these are funds for which we have to apply. Excuse me. We have to apply with CDE to receive those funds, and the application process is not here yet. We do not know at this time how flexible these funds will be. We're assuming they will be very flexible, and if they are not, then we will revisit how we will be able to make the budget gap filled for the next 3 years. The May revise also suggests that a 15% increase to the per ADA amount for special ed, increasing it from about $580 per student to $645 per student. And then we see here the decrease in the STRS rate for next year, a slight increase of almost 1% for PERS, and we were supposed to be 3%. We're supposed to receive a 3% increase. And then the routine restricted maintenance account will be at 3% next year. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a graphical representation of what the 3-year multi-year projection looks like. Now you may notice that, well, let me explain that the first bar graph is the beginning fund balance. The next yellow bar graph is revenues. The orange bar graph is for expenditures. Then the fourth bar graph, the brown one, would be for any fund balance for that year. So you can see that because the revenues are slightly below expenditures, there is about a $10 to $11 million deficit between the revenues and expenditures in next year. The following year, you see a similar situation. Assuming that we were able to make cuts of about $3 million, it won't get any deeper than that. The third year, we will need to make reductions of about $15 million to continue to maintain an ending fund balance of 3%. So that's reflected in the third year. And we'll need to identify those reductions if they will be necessary, if federal dollars do not come in time to stave off those reductions. That's 3 years away, and we have plenty of time to think about that. Next slide, please. So in the multi-year projection, as mentioned, the cuts are equal to 7.92% for the next 2 years. We do maintain our required 3% reserve all 3 years of the multi-year projection. Now, we do not do positive, negative, or qualified certifications for the adopted budget. The county either approves, conditionally approves, or disapproves the budget. And so we're confident that the county will approve this budget based on how it is submitted at this time. We are using one-time ESSER and learning loss mitigation funding to fill the budget gap next year. As I mentioned, there are yet to be cuts to be identified in 21-22 and 22-23. And we are at deficit spending in the first 2 years of this multi-year projection. Next slide. And this reflects the deficit spending for next year, mostly in the unrestricted side of the budget, not on the restricted side, because that is where the new CARES Act and learning loss funds are being deposited. So at the bottom, you see that we will deficit spend about $11 million per year until we get to 22, 23, where we need to balance the budget and make sure that we can meet the reserve requirement of 3%. Next slide, please. Another slide that we have added here is just to make sure that the board is aware that we have a constitutional requirement to meet a 55% threshold of funding the salaries and benefits of those who work inside the classroom, mainly our teachers and our instructional aides. We are okay in the calculation for 1920, but we are slightly below the 55%. It's important that we watch this throughout the year, and we will be able to do that and make sure that we meet this requirement at the end of the year next year. And next slide. So last slide, upcoming events. The state is still working on its, the legislators share the budget. The big three, the Assembly and Senate and the governor work together to come out with a budget that all can agree on, and hopefully one that the governor can sign on June 30th. Here at the local level, we are doing the public hearing and adoption of the budget tonight. The public hearing board action on the LCAP in December, as mentioned already by Dr. Peterson. The preparation of the unaudited actuals for this year, and then 45 days after the governor signs the Budget Act, we must prepare a revision that shows any material major changes in the Budget Act that we haven't accounted for yet. So let's hope that the legislature's version of the budget comes through and we won't have to see any of the cuts that I've just mentioned today. Next slide. So this time I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask any questions about the budget or the presentation.
Do any board members have any questions for Mr. Jensen?
I just want to say thank you, Rick, for the presentation and for the explanation.
You're welcome, Ms. Ardaghi.
Sometimes so I look forward to, pardon me?
Thank you.
And I have one.
Okay.
Rick, thank you for this presentation. A lot of it is, it's just so much to try and understand when we don't have the expertise you do. So we truly appreciate having you.
Thank you.
One of the things that came out to me was the 20% reduction in ACES funding. How will that, assuming we have kids coming to school, and who knows what next year will look like, but how will that affect the contracts that we have with our after school programs? If we have spent the 100% and we were 20% lower, well, how will we do that?
Well, that is a very good question, because we would have to find additional funding in other areas of the budget next year to try to make that work. Of course, we don't budget on hope, but we are hoping that if the additional HEROES Act funding comes through, that would also help us out as well. I know that our friends at Think Together are lobbying very much at the Sacramento level with the legislature to try to stem off those cuts. And currently, the legislature's version of the budget does not include a cut to ACES. So if the budget passes as it sits now, and I'm sure there will be some compromises with the governor, I hope that ACES is one of those that is not cut. But if it does, we will have to come up with additional funding elsewhere in order to ensure that that program does not get cut back. And we still have the same number of slots open for those students.
If it was cut back with our contract and we had fewer students, we're still bound to the amount of the contract, though, aren't we? Or are we only bound by the number of students we accept?
We would only have to, it won't be like it was this year where we had a requirement to continue paying contractors, employees to receive our full funding. I think next year might be a little bit different. So we will be able to have to negotiate those renegotiate those contracts to fit the need.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Joanne. Any other comments?
Yeah, this is Dan, if you don't mind.
Okay, Dan?
Hi, Dan.
Sure. Rick, great presentation again. I think you summarized the challenge that I think everybody's having in trying to adopt budgets when there's so many moving parts. You know, you mentioned you got the governor's budget that was proposed, at least to my surprise, rejected essentially by the legislature initially, who wanted to go back and make some changes before they accepted the cuts. So we have to see what comes from that. Whether or not there'll be bailout money, so to speak, from the feds is still a question mark. So, and what's going to happen with respect to revenues with biggest impact has been to sales tax. We don't know yet if there's going to be a drop in property tax assessed valuations. We don't know what's going to happen with employment or unemployment. So with all these uncertainties, you know, you're doing your best to put together a budget that tries to capture where we are in the moment, but I think we know and understand that that could change very quickly as the economy reopens and hopefully things get back to normal. But I don't know, Rick and Dr. Miranda, however you can keep us abreast of these things happening so quickly, whether it's the state's budget that gets adopted ultimately, and or whether there'll be revenue coming from appropriated from Congress to allow us to backfill the lost revenues, and other changes. So I know that we do obviously update the budget on a regular cycle. We just may need to do that a little more frequently. If we can't make changes, you know, if we have to make cuts, but we realize those cuts aren't necessary, can we then make the necessary changes to ideally pull back those cuts if they're truly not needed?
That is our hope as well. As you may know, there's rumors about an August revise. So if the August revise happens, there could be significant changes. We just hope that that's a change for the better, because maybe by that time we'll know if there is a compromise deal between the House and the Senate for the bailout dollars that you just mentioned. They're there, we just don't know how they're going to come to us.
Great.
Mr. Flores, Dan, we've also added in our board meetings the budget update, so we can do that on a regular basis for the board. So we will definitely keep the board abreast of all the changes. They change daily, and so but that was one of the reasons why we added that for that purpose, because we know it's so fluid, and we definitely understand that what we're presenting today is going to change pretty soon, hopefully for the better. We cross our fingers. We do budget based on worst case scenario, and we've always been very methodical. I'll use that term. So,
and I appreciate that. I think the board does. So thank you.
I have a question. This is Frank.
Go ahead, Frank.
Okay,
Hi, Frank.
thank you. Hello, Mr. Jensen. Thank you for
Yes.
your report, and thank you to your staff for that as well. My question is, as we start to consider reopening our schools again and how that's going to look, it's going to take a lot of work. We want to, and I know that every district in the state of California is looking to open up the schools in as safe manner as possible. And with the proposed cuts, I've been following state and assembly to see if maybe somehow they're going to assist the schools. But have you heard of any additional funding for the school districts so that they could have the funds necessary to safely open up the schools with all the supplies, the materials that each school is going to need in order to do that? Is there anything, any word, anything that you might have heard?
Mr. Ibarro, nothing firm, and all rumors at this point.
Okay.
I heard rumors of funding where the protective equipment would be available to school districts to help with the opening. but nothing firm and nothing in writing. So I think it's all in the rumor mill right now. And, you know, I do hesitate to talk about that because I don't want anybody thinking, oh, Rick said, we're
No,
getting
no,
this.
no, I understand.
Right. So,
And I've been putting my ear to that too, and I haven't heard anything, but sometimes you in your position is privy to more information than we are. So I was just wondering because I am getting calls and talking to instructors and other staff, and they're asking the question, are we prepared to provide enough supplies to keep them safe on their jobs? And you know, automatically I want to say yes, so we're going to do that, but I kind of hesitate without getting the word of where we're at and how we're going to do that.
well, I have all my little squirrels working right now to gather as much supplies and material year. So it's not a matter of will we be ready at the beginning, is how long can we sustain it is the question I would.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It's going to be a prolonged time that we're going to have to do that, you know, and it's anybody's guess at this time. So once again, I thank you for your report and I appreciate your comments on my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Jensen? Thank you, Rick, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
As always, I'm sure after you've been here, been here a little while, you've seen that Colton has always been very conservative with their budgets. And I think that has served us well. You know, it's been criticized a little bit, but it has always served us well. And we'll get through this. We have the right people in the right places, and we will get through this. So thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Moving on to 6.0, our action session, action items. We have action items 6.1 through 6.65. Does any board member have any they would like to be pulled separately? Okay, seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve action items 6.1 through 6.65?
I make
So
a motion.
this is Dan.
I second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I have a motion by Board Member Flores and a second by Board Member Araguin to approve action items 6.1 through 6.65 as presented. Joanne, would you please do a roll call vote?
Apologize, I was muted. Mr. Ibarra,
Yes.
can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, Mr. Ibarra,
Yes.
Mrs. Haro,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Doreen Ojeda,
Yes.
Mrs. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Fuentes,
Yes.
Mrs. Arigui.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. On a motion by Board Member Flores and a second by Board Member Araguin and carried on a 7-0 vote, the board approved action items 6.1 through 6.65. Moving on to 7.0, the CFD number 2, adoption of the resolution number 20-53, CFD-2, establishing the annual special tax levy for fiscal year 2020-21 for Community Facilities District Number 2. I'm opening the CFD number 2 meeting. For the following action item, the board will be acting as the legislative body of Community Facilities District Number 2. Do I have, are there any comments on this, Joanne?
There are no comments, Ms. Haro.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Israel.
I'll
And do I
second.
have a second?
Sandoval.
Sandoval. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sandoval. I have a motion by Board Member Fuentes and a second by Board Member Sandoval to approve CFD number 2, item 7.1 as presented. Roll call vote, Joanne?
Mr. Ibarra,
Yes.
Mrs. Haro,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Doreen Ojeda,
Yes.
Mrs. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Fuentes,
Yes.
Mrs. Adigui.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. On a motion by Board Member Fuentes and a second by Board Member Sandoval, and carried on a 7-0 vote, the board approved CFD number 2, item 7.1 as presented. And now we return back to our regular meeting and moving on to 8.0, CFD number 3. Item 8.1, adoption of the resolution number 20-54, establishing the annual special tax levy for fiscal year 2020-21 for Community Facilities District. I am opening the CFD number 3 meeting. Any comments on this one, Joanne?
No comments.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve CFD number 3, item 8.1 as presented?
So moved, Thornton Ojeda.
And do I have a second?
Second, Israel.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. I have a motion by Board Member Thornton Ojeda and a second by Board Member Fuentes to approve CFD number 3, item 8.1 as presented. Roll call vote, Joanne, please.
Mr. Ibarra,
Yes.
Mrs. Haro,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Doreen Ojeda,
Yes.
Mrs. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Fuentes,
Yes.
Mrs. Adigui.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. On a motion by Board Member Thornton Ojeda and a second by Board Member Fuentes and carried on a 7-0 vote, the board approved CFD number 3, item 8.1 as presented. We will be adjourning now to our regular meeting. For the remaining action items on the agenda, the board will be acting as the governing body of the Colton Joint Unified School District. Moving on to 9.0, our administrative reports. 9.1, approved disbursements. 9.2, our facilities update. Director Chang.
All right. Good evening, Board President Haro, board members, superintendent, member of the audience. Happy to be here. Good to see everyone. I hope everyone's having a cool summer. Weather's getting quite hot, and everyone's staying cool. Just like to give the board a quick update on a couple of projects, ongoing projects. Oops, I'm sorry. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I got a message that said my computer's muted. So, yeah, I just want to provide a board update on some of the ongoing projects. First up is the Colton Middle School NPR modernization project. That project's making good progress for the past couple of weeks. You can see we're working on some of the interior finishes. First, the upper left-hand corner, you see the kitchen hood currently being installed, and other equipments are scheduled to follow. Bottom left-hand corner is the serving area. You can see some of the drywalls and painting and is occurring, ongoing. In the middle of the slide is the walk-in freezer and refrigerator that's been recently installed. And on the upper right-hand corner, the progress of the NPR room. We did encounter a little bit of hiccups. Some of when we moved the ceiling tile in the NPR room, the plaster substrate was in a poor condition. Some of it were just falling off. So it was an unforeseen condition. So we had that removed. Want to make sure that everything is obviously safe for the students. So we had that removed recently. I'm going to replace it with a new substrate. And then bottom right, we have the student toilet room. You can see the tiles and finishes are going up right now. So we're subject to the Colton High School design, and we've been working with the M&O on these, utilizing these larger tiles. Again, so for both aesthetics and also from a maintenance standpoint, that we'll have to less grout surfaces to clean. So that'll hopefully reduce in their resources. Next, please. This is some progress photos for Colton High School baseball, softball field renovation project. Of all the projects, I think I mentioned to the board, this probably has been impacted most from a schedule standpoint, both to COVID and some other issues we're working through with the contractor. They're starting to pick up and making some good progress right now. So if you drive by, you can see some of the masonry walls are going up for the backstop as well as the dugouts. So we're illustrating on the photo on the left-hand side. Putting in some, the middle one, we have some light pole foundation that's going in as well. And the right side is just some additional photos showing the progress for the varsity backstop and the dugout. Next, please. Right. These are some of the recent photos for the Colton High School new cafeteria NPR building. If you board member recall, we had we experienced a little hiccup with this project as well. The steel factory had a couple of cases of COVID, so they had to shut down for COVID, so lost some time. However, we were fortunate we got the order in quite early, so we're the first in line to get the steel. So I was quite thrilled to see the steel arrive and erection happening. So that's moving along well. Metal decking is happening as well. So I was just showing some of these photos to my kids, and they weren't as enthusiastic as I was, after about the 6 photos on showing them steel. But I was pretty excited to see things are moving along for that project as well. So we're still projecting to finish the project about close to mid or late November of this year. Next, please. All right, so next 2 slides, just a quick update on the 850 Washington tenant improvement project. We have making good progress on that project as well. We have a good team out there. The project's currently about 40% complete. You can see some of the dry wires are going up. We're finishing up some of the data electrical plumbing rough ends. On the bottom, you see some of the plumbing going in for the staff restroom. Right-hand side is the receptions area. And this project is also on schedule to complete by September of 2020. Next, please. These are just some additional photos of the progress. You can see all the mechanical, electrical, ductwork, and ceiling are having been installed in the open office upper left-hand corner. The one adjacent to the right is the conference room. And then the bottom are just some various areas throughout the project, some huddle meeting area, some staff lounge, and some open office. So we're excited to see that this project's moving, making good progress. Next, please. So other quick update on other projects we're working on. Terraceville Middle School parking. We had to rebid the this project because one of the low bidders had an unresponsive bid. So had the bid opening last week. We received some bids. So so all the bids were valid this time. The low bidder was about there's about $14,000 savings compared with had we gone with the original bidder. So there's a little, I was wishing for more, but with the, but we had about $14,000 saving from the rebidding of this project. We're hoping to get this project started soon. It's about a 3-month duration project, and hope to get that started and finished quickly. Then the next two projects, Bloomington High School sound lighting rigging replacement and the Holton High School rigging replacement. We've been we finished with the drawings, and simultaneously we were seeking exemption from DSA for review. Unfortunately, they didn't accept our reason for exemption rules, so they are requiring us to submit the plans for their review. So we're working with the architects on getting the package and submitted so we can continue to move that project forward. And next slide. This last quick update, Washington Alternative High School. A couple months ago, M&O's been working with the site to convert some of the turf on their playfield area to create a walking running track for the students. So upon the completion, we've been working with M&O, collaborating with them on seeking the rebates. So I'm happy to report to the board we were able to qualify for a $4,300 rebate from City of Colton and a little bit over $10,000 from San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. So almost $15,000 worth of rebate. Hopefully they can use that to replenish their coffer to do some additional improvements at school sites. Next. So this completes my facility update. I'd like to ask if we have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Chang?
Pat, this is Dan, just real quick if I can. First of all, Owen, great presentation update as always. Just a request that if it's possible and when it's safe, I think we'd probably love a tour of the Washington building just to see the progress. I think a lot of us saw it when we first purchased the building, and it looks like it's come a long way. And once walls and drywall start going up, you really get a feel for what it'll look like. I think it'd be really cool to get out there and take a look. So if you could let us know when would be a good time to do a tour, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a fun project.
I also would be interested.
I'll work with superintendent's office to schedule a tour within the next coming weeks. So.
Owen, I have a question on the rigging for Colton High School and Bloomington High School.
Yes.
Now that we have to go through DSA,
Yes.
What's the time frame now we're looking at?
A DSA timeframe, they have a relatively new procedure. They have a review. Well, there's a 6-week initial timeframe for them to schedule or to review your project, and then depending on the comments that they receive, usually takes a couple of weeks after that. Again, depends on the complexity. But one of the reasons we were seeking for exemption is DSA. Even though we're replacing rigging, DSA has regulation. They start to look at accessibility and other requirements. So, we're hoping that they would, allow us for the project to be exempt, because once you start to look at the accessibility requirements, usually, increases the budget and the scope quite a bit more, which may include some. Restroom upgrade and ramp, and which doesn't really relates to the actual project itself. But we are working through. There's some hardship, other process we're going through to working with DSA to see if they can expedite the review. So we have a pretty good relationship with them. So we'll continue to stay in communication with them and see if they can help us. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for keeping us posted on it. I know we've been working on this for a while, and It
Yes,
just seems
yes.
it keeps getting delayed for all different reasons, but you know what? I know you're doing your best. So thank you for keeping us apprised of what's happening with it.
All right, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
9.3 budget update. We already had that. 9.4 ACE update. Janice Marcano. Excuse me. Are you letting Janice in, Shane?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. My name is Janice Marcano, and I am the secretary for ACE, and I will be representing them this evening. I just wanted to say good evening to our Colton School Board members, Superintendent Miranda, and all attendees. Thank you for listening to us and always giving us a voice. I just wanted to say that I appreciate all that you are doing with ACE and for our students. And we look forward to working with you in the future. But at this time, we do not have any updates for you.
Thank you, Janice. Be safe and have a good summer.
Thank you so much. You too.
Item 9.5, we have no CSEA update. And item 9.6, we have no MAC update and ROP update. Would you like to give an update, Mr. Ibarra?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Pat. We did have a meeting yesterday, and it's the end of the year for CRYROP. And in their normal fashion, they were very excited about the accomplishments that they have achieved over this school year, even though through the difficulty of the COVID-19. They did get share with the board virtual accomplishments, which included a variety of different scholarships and quite a few scholarships given to Colton Joint Unified School District students. As an example, some of the scholarships that were given was the Linda Denver Scholarship, and some of you might remember Linda Denver. She was our representative from ROP when she worked with them. The Bob Bruce Scholarship, the Corvette West and Tom Bell Scholarships, and they highlighted a lot of the student ambassadors, particularly from Colton, Bloomington, and Grand Terrace. And one of the things that I was impressed, and I believe the whole board was impressed, is the fact that how many programs CRYROP offers our students over the year, and how many opportunities our students are given if they take advantage of the classes through CRYROP to take a look at what are some of the possibilities for future careers. I've said it many times, and they're a wonderful program, excellent instructors. There was a letter of accommodation written by our Colton High School principal, Joda Murphy, and and also Sandy Torres from Bloomington High School. And they just do a wonderful job, and I can't say enough of what they do. They did mention that the fact that they're going to open up and have a full staff return on June 29th. So they're preparing for that, and they're excited. They feel that it's important that the staff all return. And of course, they talked a lot about being safe about their return so they could prepare for the new school year. One of the things that they also highlighted was the fact that they're very excited about promoting their ROP programs to our middle schools, and they're in the process of hiring new middle school teachers. And they've already, according to them, purchased supplies, desks, etc., and they're prepping to go into our middle schools to start offering those same type of wonderful services to our middle schools as well. And I look forward to seeing that. And that was something that I wanted to see happen over several years, and I'm glad that they've gotten to that point. Let me see if there's anything else. No, I think that's what I have so far, Pat. So if you want to add to it. So,
No,
well,
you were quite eloquent. Thank you, thank you for Frank for doing the ROP update.
thank you.
It was a good meeting.
Yes, it was.
10.1, our superintendent's communique, Dr. Miranda.
Yes, thank you, Board President Haro, Board and Cabinet members of the audience. So tonight, my superintendent's communique, the first slide and first thing that I want to talk to you is about the Bridge Committee, the Bloomington MAC Bridge Committee. So just last month, board members and Board President Haro, Mr. Puentes, and Ms. Thorne Ojeda met with the Bloomington and myself with the MAC. And so in BC, we put correspondence regarding the outcome of the meeting, specifically addressing the issue of illegal trucking in Bloomington, which is a big issue there that was brought up by the MAC committee. And so the MAC has requested for more support to be voiced by the board on this issue, and was hoping for support from the district in the form of a letter asking the county to enhance the ordinance and or enhance the program. So what I like to do is request board consensus to submit a letter to the county regarding this issue. So
Do we have board consensus? Or does the board have any questions of Dr. Miranda in regards to this?
No, I'm fine with it. That's Frank.
I'm
good. I'm Israel.
I'm fine too.
Yep, works for me.
Yes. Yes, I'm fine with it as well.
okay, then oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ms. Adegin. Okay. Okay. So I appreciate that, and so we'll put something together for the board on behalf of the board and get that over to the county. And so I'm sure the MAC really appreciates the board support. So thank you. The next, yes.
This is Joanne. Would you send us a copy of that before you send it over so we can review it?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we'll do that. And the next slide, 2020 graduations. And so those virtual graduations, I guess they didn't pop up yet. Thank you. There you go. All right, thanks, Shane. Appreciate that. You see the beautiful bus there and the different logos. So, you know, I want to take this opportunity and thank all the staff, the principals, all their staff, assistant principals, everybody who worked hard to make the drive-through graduations successful. There was a lot of time and energy put into these events, as everybody knows, for our graduates. We wanted to add, not subtract, and we wanted to make these events memorable and leave our seniors and our graduates with something they can remember. And so we owe our staff a huge debt of gratitude. That includes our certificated, our classified, our administrative staff. Security was huge in this. Our M&O, transportation, you know, the transportation, the bus there, they got together and painted that with Director Richardson and communications. And then especially our SRO officers from Colton and from our different cities from the county and our law enforcement and partner agencies who all work together to put these graduations. I do especially, I don't want to embarrass her, but I do want to recognize Amanda and her team for her leadership in spearheading this enormous project in such a short period of time. And so thank you, Assistant Superintendent Corridor, for that. And so on behalf of the Board of Education and Executive Cabinet, thank you to all of you who are involved in making this event and these events memorable for our students. It's something we will never forget, we'll always remember. And so thank you for that. This next event, I was just made aware, just wanted to market it here at the board meeting because we know this is something that's come up. And so as you see, there's going to be the Black Experience Forum for CJUSD Student Voices. That's going to be on Wednesday, June 24th. The district is going to be hosting a virtual student forum, and the forum will allow, as it states there, our African American Black students to share their experiences and stories in light of all the recent events that we're aware. And it's really a forum for students to voice their opinions and share and to discuss injustices, biases that they may have experienced, as well as the ability to listen to others. We know in this district, the board is very interested in student voice, so we want to support our students in our district, especially of African American and Black students. So, and then the last thing I have on my communique this evening is just a big thank you to all our staff here in our district. As we end the school year, and I can speak, I think, for the Board of Education, and the board does it all the time. We just want to thank each and every one of you for your hard work this year and resilience. The past few months have been unprecedented, and my hope is that for everyone to get rest, to recharge before the next school year begins. So take time to get some rest and disconnect, to do some self-care, to be present with your families, and really be there for them. So thank you again to all of you for your dedication, your patience as we navigate through these times. And so with that, that is my communique for tonight. I'll turn it back over to you, Board President. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miranda, for your kind words. And I'm very happy to see this forum that we're going to be having in the day and the evening for our students to have a voice. It's very important that our students be able to express their feelings somewhere where they don't feel threatened, somewhere where it's valued. So thank you to all of you for getting this planned for our students. Moving on to 11.0, our board member comments. Board Member Ibarra.
Thank you, Pat. First of all, I just want to say thank you. Can't say how enough thank yous to the staffs at each one of the high schools for preparing and making every one of the graduates who graduated from each of the high schools feel special throughout last week. I've received numerous calls, talked to people who've come to my house, and they all were very, very, very pleased with the efforts that their individual high schools did, the school district, and the support that we gave them as students and as family members throughout this unusual time where we could not offer them the traditional graduation at this particular point of the year. So when you get an opportunity, Dr. Miranda, please let all our principals, all the staff at the high schools know that, we truly, truly appreciate all their efforts and what they've done. We can't say enough of. And I also want to add to Amanda, thank you very much. You show a lot of heart and love for our students and our staff, and it shows with everything that you do. So I just want to thank you for all you've done during this particular point in time. I also want to say thank you to Dr. Miranda. These last few months, it's been like we have not seen each other. I feel kind of separated from every one of you. But one of the things that keeps us glued together is Dr. Miranda and his phone calls, his information, updating us, getting some feedback, and just doing a wonderful job uh, during this period of time. And I just want to make sure that I properly give my thank you to Dr. Miranda for all he's done and what he's going to do in the next months to come, but during this period of time. And we've all said it, you know, what a way to become a superintendent. But you've done an excellent job in leading this district, and I truly appreciate that as well. Also, I can't say enough for Joanne Medina. Uh, Pat mentioned it not too long ago, where she said that she noticed I guess it was an email that she sent, and she said she always takes a look at the time that she sends them off, and it just indicative of that she's working almost like 24 hours a day for us. And I can't say enough for the help that she's provided me, the information she's given me over this period of time. I miss the fact that I can't go in there and actually talk face to face, but I appreciate that she's there and is willing to help and is offering her help with every day that goes by. So I just want to say thank you to Joanne for all that as well. Um, just like Pat mentioned earlier, um, I'm very pleased to hear that our district is opening up a forum for our Black students in our district. I think it's important for them to have a voice, and I think it's important for them to have an opportunity to express how they're feeling. And you know, I believe that when there's difficult times, that we all could learn from it. And I know that I definitely will. I've learned a lot over these past few weeks and months, and for our district to be so proactive to do this, it's great, and I can't say enough about that. And I thank those who are putting it together. And can't like I said, I can't say enough because of all the things that have been happening in our world today. You know, uh, people matter. Uh, I was talking to Dr. Miranda earlier today, and we were talking about equity, trying to provide a great education for all students. And we also want to observe and identify the fact that uh, Black lives do matter. And as we take a look at, you know, how our society has gone into a variety of different directions, it's good to see that people are coming together, people are uniting during this difficult times, and that we're identifying the fact that there is a lot of injustices in this world, and we can be the solution if we work together. So I just want to thank whoever put that forum together, and if it's going to be virtual, I'll definitely be watching on that particular day. So it's the end of the school year, and I know that a lot of people do not rest. You start preparing for the next school year, particularly under these difficult circumstances, and how we're going to open up. It's going to be challenging, but for everybody that's listening, take some time to rest. In a sense, I feel like I've been resting for the last 3 months. I'm anxious to get out and get going and doing things, but I have to be patient, and that's a virtue that I have to draw upon. So I just want to thank everybody for a good end of the school year, and everybody stay safe, and everybody take care. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Frank. Board Member Thoring Ojeda.
Okay. First of all, I I want to begin with thanking our nutrition services for their meal prep for students every single day. I remember when I was at school, the number of families that really relied on the school meals for their family. And I'm just so grateful that we've been able to provide for our boys and girls, and we can continue to do that. I think it meets a bigger need than we've ever realized, especially now with what's happened with the COVID and the number of people who've been out of work. Secondly, again, Frank mentioned, and Pat, throughout the night, we've been talking about this with Frank too. The graduations. Amanda, you did an amazing job of getting the schools up and moving with their graduations. And I've heard nothing but wonderful things about the experience. So the kids were, I know they were disappointed that we didn't have a big graduation, but I think in a lot of ways it was so individualized when they got to go up by themselves. It was really kind of exciting for them too. So made a sad thing pretty good for our kids. And I appreciate all the work that went into that because I know there was a tremendous job. Third, thank you, Rick, for the budget presentation. I worked at budgets many, many years ago when I was a secretary, and still never ceases to amaze me how much you have to understand and what goes into that. So thank you for keeping us current on what's happening and trying to make us understand all the difficulties in funding everything we need to do in our school district for our kids. Oh, and it was great to see you tonight, hear you tonight. I didn't see you, but hear you tonight, keeping us informed. I also would like to visit Washington if we could make a couple of times so we wouldn't have more than 3 of us at a time, but I would love to see what progress. So thank you, Dan, for that suggestion. The Black experience, I think it's time that we do something like that. I'm really excited to see that we've decided at the district level to make a forum possible. Is it possible for those of us who are a little more challenged with technology to have that put on our calendars so we can push a button and be included in that? If not, I'm going to be calling to have somebody help me figure out how to do that. I was excited to hear the ROP, Frank, is moving down more classes down into the middle school. A lot of countries, it's when they start really moving kids and where they're going to go in their careers. So I'm excited to hear that we're able to push more of that down into the middle school area. And lastly, happy vacation. I hope everyone takes some time, especially now. I know we all of us feel like we've been on vacation because we were spending so much time at home, but there's been so much unknown and uncertainty. And I think even though we're home, we're still stressing out about what's happening, what's going to happen. So I hope we can take some time this summer to just stand back, take a deep breath, and just enjoy some time and some peace. We have a great group that's putting our school district together. I hope you guys do the same and get some vacation time. But I feel so confident that we're going to come up with something that'll work for everybody. I know that a lot of hard work's been put into that. So I thank all of you for the hard work you've done this year. It certainly has never been a year like this. Hopefully we'll never have a year like this again, but thank you for everyone, your dedication to the children of our school district, because you've gone above and beyond to provide the very best we can give. So thank you very much, and that's all. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Sandoval.
Hi. Well, I just want to give a really thank you to Dr. Miranda, because all those calls, all the updates, he answers all my questions. It's always up to date. All the hard job that you do, Dr. Miranda. And it's pretty awesome. I really, really thank you, and I really appreciate it. And also to Joan Medina, the same, because of the updates, the emails. And thank you for everybody. I miss you all. So hopefully we'll see each other soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval. Board Member Aragin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I wish to express my unwavering support for Black youth and our and their families during this very difficult time. Our Black community has been pushed to a breaking point because of the systemic racism that exists in our country and our society, and yes, even in our schools. Our African American youth who attend our schools, they must feel safe. They need to feel supported. We can't fail them. We cannot fail them, and we won't fail them. Things must change. We know that. Things cannot go back to business as usual. Not this time. Words can't express how I feel about our youth, how proud I am of our youth. These last few days, they've stood up and proven to be true leaders. Their voices have been loud. Their heightened activism fills me with hope. And I want to encourage them, and I want to continue to allow them to hear their voice. And I'm very glad to hear about the Black Forum. I think it's going to be a huge success. So thank you for doing that. I applaud the students. I also want to thank Mr. Williford, because he also has initiated a roundtable meeting where he's just going to have the community come in and we're going to have a conversation. So I applaud him for doing that also. I'm looking forward to the Black Forum and as well as his meeting that he has planned in the next few weeks. So thank you very much. And we're going to get through this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Board Member Araguin. Board Member Fuentes?
Thank you, President Haro. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to all of our staff and executive staff and Dr. Miranda, Dina, Amanda for the presentations. I got to see some of them, some photos and stuff, and I can see that the students were excited to go through, even though it was a hybrid or a drive-through type of graduation, but I can see that they were enjoying it and that they were making those memories. So that really touched me, and I just wanted to say a big thank to all of you for the hard work. And I think it was John. Please let the principals know. Please let them know. Let the staff know at the high schools that we really, really appreciate what they did and the stuff that they did. I mean, from lettering to balloons to everything, just to make that day a memorable day. And also to all law enforcement that was out there. I wanted to say thank you for all your hard work also. So one other thing, I'm excited to hear that we have the Black Forum coming up. We are all about listening to the voice, and I am all about listening to the young voice. Black lives do matter. At this point, we need to make sure that we are listening, that we are making a difference, that we are there to mentally help. And I know Colton Joint Unified School District does that. And we want to make sure that everybody is listened to, that everyone's voice is heard. I'm excited to see that. I know that Mr. Williford also has a round table, and I'm going to participate in that also. And I'm excited to see these forums opening up, because it is time that we do support our Black families, our African American families, and I will always do that. I know many of our Unified School District staff, our families, they know that I'm always there to support them. I'm always there to listen. I'm always there to whatever they need. If it's prayer, I'm there to pray for them. You know, if they need a hug, give them a hug. But I'm just excited to see these in our district. And I want to leave you with a quote here from Dr. Martin Luther King. Bring my notes. It says, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Light can do that. Hate can drive out hate. Only love can do that. Much love for everyone.
Thank you, Board Member Fuentes. Board Member Flores?
Thank you. Again, I'll echo many of the comments already made by my colleagues with respect to the end of the year and graduation. I want to thank everybody in the district for helping make graduation happen for our kids. It wasn't what they probably envisioned early on, wasn't what we envisioned, but we made the best of the situation. And when I saw many of the kids and the families, they were excited, they were enthusiastic, they were very creative. I saw somebody rented the biggest van I had ever seen, so the whole family can come through the drive-through. But it was Colton School District, Colton Unified at its best. And I just want to thank everybody for helping make that happen for our kids. And and I missed it. I'll be honest with you. I got the notices on Facebook, the memories, if you will, over the years, and I've been here nearly 8 years, going on 9. So Board Member Ibarra, Board Member Haro, and others who've been here longer, I can only imagine you're used to that every year and you miss it. But we look forward to a great school year and to having the opportunity to celebrate graduation next year, God willing. But I'm grateful for all of that. I'll be brief. I do want to, again, I appreciate many of the comments shared today at the meeting and other emails that we've received from students, parents, the community members, staff, with respect to what's happening right now, a pivotal moment in our history, with respect to the Black community, with others standing up and saying, enough is enough. We have to speak power to truth. And it is real, and it is powerful, and it is moving. The things that I think about with respect to education and what we're doing with our students, the reality is African American students, Black students, particularly Black male students, perform on the lowest end of the spectrum when it comes to the academic indices that we look at. Yet the suspension rates are through the roof, right? The disproportionate disparities from health to education to economics, it is real. Racism is real and it's systemic. And so I appreciate the opportunity for us to encourage students, teachers, staff, advocates to have this conversation, to continue to have the conversation in our district, and however we can help. Well, we need to be part of it, not just help. We need to be active participants because we set the policy, we set the vision and the direction. So when we talk about every student, we mean every student. But it has to be about equity, not equality, because not every student starts from the same place. And for our African American students or Black students who don't feel like they're represented because there aren't enough Black teachers, that's real. If we feel like that there aren't enough Black administrators in the district that reflect the diversity of our district, that's real. And while we have had African American board members in the past, we don't currently now, and that's real, and that's okay. We can't be afraid to have these conversations and use them as opportunities to learn, to grow, to support one another. So I'm personally passionate about this. I'm working on it at the county level, but I hope we have a chance to continue to make, not just talk about it, but really have policies, give direction, and integrate this into our culture going forward. It's there. We believe in equity as a district, but it's time to really spell out and make some changes so our African American students feel valued, validated, their story, their narrative. So I just want to thank everybody, and let's see where this goes. If it's a resolution that we adopt, if it's a visioning conversation, whatever that might be, I'd like to be part of it. Let's embrace it. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Flores. I started to write what I wanted to say this evening based on what's been happening in our communities, in our state, in our country, and all over the world. And a friend of mine wrote something, and I asked her if I could read what she wrote, because coming from her, this was more eloquent, because she is living the situation. So bear with me while I read this. A note to my dear white friends. I love all of you so much, but please stop saying that you don't see color. I understand that what you're trying to say is that you're not prejudiced, but that expression completely undermines your credibility because of course you see color. We all see color. There is no way anyone can look at me and not notice that I am Black. Being Black is a huge part of who I am. I don't want you to pretend that I am something I'm not. I want you to try to understand and appreciate who I am. And no person of color has the luxury of not seeing color. The color of my skin is why I get followed around in stores It's why people call the police if I'm sitting in my car reading in the shade. It's why white people always tell me, "You're so articulate," because they're stunned that I speak proper English. It's why the police followed my car from the freeway to the parking lot every single night when I worked in Irvine. It's why when my sweet biracial baby was little, mall security stopped me more than once because they assumed I was stealing someone else's baby. It's why dozens of times I got accused of being racist when white parents wanted to bully me into changing their kids' grade. It's why I have to be careful to never lose my temper publicly so that my complaints won't be dismissed as the rantings of another angry Black woman. And it's why women clutch their purse when I walk by, because they are afraid I'm going to rob them. Being Black is my reality. Denying that you see color is denying that part of my reality. It's like you're trying to erase who I am to match who you are. Claiming not to see color is dishonest and disingenuous because, of course, you can see that I'm Black and you're not. By falsely claiming color blindness, what you're saying is that you're pretending to ignore who I am in order to make sense of our relationship. We don't have to look the same in order to have a connection. Our skin tones don't match, but we love each other anyway. Instead, perhaps you could try one of these phrases. I don't define people by skin color. I never allow race to determine who I love. I love my friends, regardless of color. I love that I have friends of all different races. Variety is the spice of life. My family and I embrace diversity. I appreciate you for being in my life and for making the effort to have courageous conversations about race. I'm hoping that this will be a way for you to express yourself without offending someone who doesn't know your heart the way that I do. And as Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. I am very grateful to this district for doing this student forum so that our students and teachers, if they want to join in, that this is a forum for everyone to speak their opinions, for them to be respected for their opinions, and that we as Colton Joint Unified respect everyone's opinions, because that is the district that we are, that we do make a difference, and we want to make a difference in the lives of all of our students. I don't want any of our students to think that we don't, because all of us, for the most part, have been racially profiled at some time in our lives, and this should not happen to anyone. I want to thank Dr. Miranda again, like it was said by my colleagues. You became superintendent and you didn't know it was going to be such a difficult time, but we are all grateful to have you and you leading us. And I also want to thank Mr. Jensen. Once again, when you took this position, you didn't realize everything that was going to happen. So to both of you, an extra thank you. I want to thank all of our staff, our certificated, our classified staff, and our management staff for everything that they've done. This has been a wild ride, unprecedented times that none of us ever thought we would live through. And I'm very proud to be on the Board of Education, representing the students that we do, representing the employees that we do, because I know that myself and the 6 board members that I sit on this board with have the heart to carry out what's best for this district. We have some difficult decisions to make up in the upcoming months. And I know that we will do it with grace, and we will do it always with what is best for our students and with for our staff. I wish you all a wonderful vacation, but I also want to say that John F. Kennedy said, we must find time to stop and thank the people who make a difference in our lives. To my colleagues, to all our employees, and to our students, you all make a difference in our lives. And with that, we will close this meeting and go into our closed session. Thank you very much.
We're back.
Boy, that was fast. I think that's a record.
We're back, Joanne.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Miranda.
You got it. I believe we have everybody back from the board, except Ms. Sandoval, you on?
I believe she is.
Okay, so then we have all the board back.
Ms. Sandoval, you're there?
I'm here.
Great.
Everybody's on, Ms. Haro.
I think she's muted.
She knows she on mute.
Yeah, let me, okay, there she goes.
Am I there?
You're here.
Okay,
We can hear you.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so item 13.1, Personnel Public Employee Appointment, Government Code 54957. On a motion by Board Member Fuentes and seconded by Board Member Sandoval, and on a 7-0 vote, the board approved the following. Personnel Public Employee Appointment, Government Code 54957. Certificated Regular Staff 2. Speech Therapist, Pupil Personnel Services 2. Classified Coaches 3. Head Junior Varsity Softball Girls, Head Junior Varsity Swimming Co-ed, and Pep Squad Director Co-ed. And tonight, the Colton Joint Unified School District will adjourn our meeting in the honor of Mr. George Floyd. And with that, we are adjourned.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Great summer.
Right.
Enjoy your vacation. Rest.
Thank you, Shane, for all your help.
My pleasure.
Good
Night, everyone.
Sandoval.
Enjoy your rest.